Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. I am Sybil Wilkes. Welcome to What You Need to Know. We are live, all the way live, and here with my good friend, Jawn Murray. Hey, Jawn.
Hey, good evening, Sybil.
Hey, yeah, it is evening, isn't it? A hot day for you,
It's
wherever
not,
you are. What'd you
in the
say,
words
90?
of our friend Huggy Lowdown, it's hot as a Mickey Flicky in DC. A good 95 degrees today.
Oh my gosh, it's been rainy. It's been beautiful here today, rainy and overcast, and I don't think it's gotten to
Hmm.
80 yet.
You
Just
sound like my mama. Rainy and overcast is beautiful. Y'all both should move to Seattle or something.
Jawn, you know what? Once we hit June, all bets are off. You know how many 100-degree days we're going to have in Texas. So this is a nice reprieve, and people who don't have to water their lawns for a day or two, also nice. Just saying.
This is true. This is true.
We are talking about what's in the news and a lot going on, and I couldn't think of a better person to have conversation about a lot of the things. Jawn is a pop culture expert and entertainment reporter, and so you know that there's always something happening. And Jawn is also culture, entertainment, not only his forte. Jawn is very involved in what's going on in our political system as well as other areas of the world. And so we're going to have an opportunity to get his take on a lot of these things, not only from our newsletter, but things beyond that as well. For folks who don't know, we have a What You Need to Know newsletter. It's 5 stories that we decide every day to share with our audience and with our membership of readers. And if you'd like to be a part of this, and we would invite you to go to sybilwilkes.com, give us your name and your email address, and we will have that in your email box every Monday through Friday morning, first thing. A lot of folks say that they turn to that, like my former boss, Tom Joyner, turned to it first thing in the morning. Tom was in our newsletter yesterday, Jawn, talking about Muhammad Ali Jr. and what he had to say about Donald Trump and how his father would feel about Black Lives Matter and things like that. So Tom has given us his take. Jawn has also been a contributor as we had our quarantine chronicles and told us what he was doing and how he was amusing himself with a lot of movies and a lot of music. And Jawn is very involved in the music business as well. You may have seen a beautiful video that he did recently. It was in April, just in time for his birthday, in which he had a chorus of his friends, mostly in the gospel music business, and all got together and sang "That's What Friends Are For," and even got the thumbs up from one Dionne Warwick too.
That was pretty cool, Sybil. Pretty
That
cool.
was very cool. It was cool on your part
She still ain't called
because
me yet, though, by the way. I'm just
she
waiting.
has not.
But sing her song, Call Me, You know, don't have daytime and nighttime minutes anymore. You can call me, Dion.
That is the truth, Jawn. And as we get back into people start to resume their lives, whatever the new normal is, I wonder how that's going to be with us having the ability to reach people at any hour of the day or night. Now it's changed. It's going to change up a bit more, and that's one of the things we want to talk about because today people are getting back to normal. In some states, it's voting day. Jawn, did you vote today, or did you have the opportunity to vote today?
Well, in Virginia, it was a kind of a regional primary. There were certain
Mm-hmm.
aspects that people were voting for. So we did not vote today. We had another primary here that was maybe just a couple months ago. I'm losing track of time being in
I
the career.
know, I
It's
know,
tough.
I know.
But we had another primary here where we voted for the majority of our major elections. So there were a couple referendums and a lot of things that were dealing with certain regions. Virginia is such a large state that sometimes certain things only apply to certain regions. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a big day for the Tidewater, Virginia area and certain parts of Western Virginia. The folks here in Northern Virginia, we were pretty easy going today. We didn't have a big day, but we're gearing up for November.
I know you are. And but there's so much happening in Virginia, Jawn, and especially in terms of the statues coming down and what the person in the White House is saying that he wants to do and make an executive order to make it illegal to bring to bring the statues down to change anything, which could even mean jail time for people who are involved with that, or should I say prison time for people who are found to be guilty of bringing the statues down. and akin to, setting fire to the American flag or something like that. So, and your governor has been very proactive in terms of supporting the people who want to bring those Confederate statues down. And that's in Virginia, that's a lot of statues.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of statues in Virginia. But here's the thing: during the Obama years, Virginia really became a blue state. Like the color change here, and a lot of that was influenced by Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is an area that probably spans maybe about an hour out of DC. I literally live 6 miles from the White House. Like, it's
wow.
In the case of emergency, I could really kind of walk it if I needed to. But I actually live on the Virginia side of the city. And Ralph Northam, after the whole blackface scandal and all of that he endured early on in his stint as a governor, the best way to show people that you have evolved and you made a mistake early on in your life and you don't want to be held to that standard is by your actions. And his actions, despite his past, have been very progressive, have been very inclusive, and have been really a true celebration and understanding of what's going on in our culture right now. So yeah, I didn't like that he wore the blackface, but I love that he's supporting Black Lives Matter. And, we all shouldn't be held to a particular moment in time. We should have that grace to grow and evolve. And he's showing through his actions and legislation and decisions for us that he's done just that.
What are your thoughts on Justin Fairfax? I haven't heard much about him lately. He had, some issues about the same time that Ralph Northam was going through his and some charges of sexual impropriety, perhaps. But just as a lieutenant governor, do you see him as still on the rise in the Democratic Party?
I don't know. I think in the era of Me Too, Sybil, it's really hard to overcome those type of accusations. He survived the immediate accusations against him. And he's been adamant that they aren't true. And unlike a lot of people put in the same predicament as him, he was willing to have a full investigation take place. He was willing to I think even said he would undergo a lie detector test, a whole bunch of other things. So when you're that willing to subject yourself to the level of scrutiny, I think he even said, let the FBI or somebody get involved. For me, that says a lot, because most people who do this stuff, we've seen it with everybody from Bill Cosby to Harvey Weinstein and even Russell Simmons. They deny, and then they try to discredit the women. And all he has said is, me and these people saw these encounters differently, and I'm willing to go the distance to prove that what they're saying and how they're describing me is inaccurate.
Yeah. The state of Virginia, or should I call you guys the Commonwealth, it is quite progressive and in this day, not only with the governor and the lieutenant governor, but is it the House of Commons? Is it you guys have?
You're trying to make me go back to civics class. You're getting a little too deep in the weeds, Sybil.
but as you said, turning the state blue in terms of a lot of activities that have taken place as a result of that, which is what they're aiming to do, obviously, in the United States.
And the reason why I say Northern Virginia is so instrumental in that is this is probably one of the most diverse areas in the country. The high school that I went to that was formerly named after a Confederate general, Jeff Stewart, it was listed in National Geographic as the most diverse high school in the United States. So this is a multicultural mecca. Like, I've always been around people of various races and ethnicities and things like that. So when I left this area and went down to Norfolk State to go to an HBCU, it was a bit of a culture shock for me.
I was going to ask you that.
Being in the United Nations to being in the real life version of the movie School Days. It was just black, but I had a great time down there. And, I said something the other day, Sybil, that I really believe, there are a lot of people who are very passionate about their Confederate roots. And, I don't know where else in the world people celebrate something that was lost. We don't celebrate the Super Bowl or the World Series, but they lost the war and they couldn't own us and they still want to celebrate it. But I said, if white people are that passionate about having their Confederate statues, then let us erect statues of O.J. Simpson up in your neighborhood and let you have to face somebody who may have murdered people that look like you. Because for me, when I was in college at Norfolk State, that's when the whole OJ verdict came in. And we were cheering because Johnny Cochran had beat a judicial system that typically did not work in our favor. And so while I have evolved in my theories on OJ Simpson, and I don't watch the documentaries, and even though he even though he's our skin folk, he ain't our kin folk.
Right.
But for me, it still was a pivotal moment in my life. The whole way the Black community galvanized to root, mainly for Johnny Cochran beating the system.
Right.
Maybe we should celebrate that. Maybe white people should have to see that the juice is loose every time they walk into a government building or go to a park. Like if they had to sit and face O.J. Simpson all day long, maybe they'd be willing to take their little Andrew Jefferson Jackson down.
Okay.
Civic lessons. I'm getting my Jeffersons, my Jacksons, and my Abraham Lincolns all mixed up, Sybil.
Well, I don't think you'll mistake Lincoln with any of those other jokers, but I think that. But we're also getting great history lessons, or white people are getting history lessons and things that we learned in our history classes long ago. I even heard, I think it was yesterday on The View, Sonny Hostin took Joy Behar to school, talking about the real history of George Washington, the father of this country, as they like to call him, and what a mean slave owner he was.
Yes.
And a lot of people, and Joy was really quite taken aback. She was like, "How can you say something bad about George Washington?" She said, "Well, I'll tell you." Yeah. And she proceeded to school her. And I'm thinking she schooled Meghan McCain too. I don't remember seeing Meghan's reaction.
Of course she schooled Meghan McCain, because Clay Aiken was tweeting about Sonny Hostin. Meghan's on her best behavior because Sonny has spoken out about the racial injustice at the show. So she herself can't say a lot of things. And I notice a lot of her best friends are tweeting on her behalf. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just pay attention to details. So.
Okay. Yes, you do. Come on, John. Tell the truth and shame that devil that poor chair.
But no, I was glad Sonny did that, though, because here's the thing. I mean, the fact that we still celebrate Columbus Day, that is the most revisionist American story ever told to people. And you don't discover a land that's already habitated by other people. So if you're celebrating that, you're celebrating theft, you're celebrating murder, you're celebrating the torture of Native Americans. And so America, has always been about creating this feel-good, patriotic, Americana story.
And the heroes that they create.
And they're heroes and these deities and these people that they've elevated. But the truth is, some of these folks were some nasty SOBs.
Yeah. Yep. You're absolutely right. And the sooner we continue to talk about it, the sooner we can maybe get some of these down, until we start talking about white Jesus versus black Jesus, and then there's going to be a problem.
Listen, I'm sick of looking at that Jesus that looks like Fabio. Give him his suntan back and stop straightening his hair. The Bible said the man went and blended it in Egypt. And I know they like to look at Elizabeth Taylor for stories about Egypt.
Right.
But hello, you better be looking at Mary J. Blige. He blended in. He blended in with the brown people. So yeah, they can take down white Jesus, but keep black Jesus hanging up on that cross.
Okay. John, that's something that we're going to be talking about for quite a while, because now, people are getting upset. You can't take down our white Jesus. You can't tell me Jesus was anything but a white man, and the whole stained glass and all of that kind of stuff is going to.
They can believe that Santa Claus is white, but the Bible is clear on Jesus.
Okay. And Sherry Shepherd can tell us about Barbara Walters and white Santa Claus at some point too. John, talking about election day, though, a couple of elections are really gaining a lot, have gathered a lot of speed and are getting a lot of attention. And that is the U.S. Senate race in Kentucky for the Democratic nomination. There is a young man. He is the youngest Black state lawmaker in the state of Kentucky. His name is Charles Booker, and he is running for the nomination. Today is election day in Kentucky against a big time Army vet, a pilot, as a matter of fact. Her name is Amy McGrath, and she was just smooth, everything was great, because they really thought that she was going to have an easy run of it. And what she really was just working this campaign as if she was already running against Mitch McConnell. Well, this guy, Charles Booker, and all of the things that have happened in this country since, let's say, Ahmaud Arbery, but definitely since Breonna Taylor's death. Things have really escalated in the state of Kentucky, especially, and Louisville. Now, Charles Booker is a friend of Breonna Taylor's family. So he's been on this case for a very long time and has gained a lot of momentum. And now the latest polls before Election Day showed that he was leading Amy McGrath, who was the foregone conclusion up until then. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this race, but we're not going to find out today, and we're probably not going to find out tomorrow. In the age of coronavirus, obviously, a lot of people who don't want to go to the polls, so there's a lot of absentee voting that was done in advance. And in the city of Louisville, they had one polling place. One. Got it? 600,000 people, if they are going to vote, would go to this one voting place if they did not vote by absentee ballot. They showed this, it's like a gym times 10. It looks like people going through TSA. They had the ropes and everything lined up for people to go and vote today. It's going to be very interesting to see how and when all of this comes out. The same thing in New York State, they had to condense a lot of areas for the voting area. And then, of course, people didn't want to come out and work the polls because of fear of getting coronavirus and what have you. And there's some races there that are of great import, especially for those running for the United States Congress. And some old timers are very afraid that they're going to lose their positions just the way Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did 2 years ago.
Absolutely. And the one old timer who should unequivocally lose his position is the meanest guy in the game, Mitch McConnell. I mean, at some point, somebody should put a billboard up of him in Times Square that just says "Son of Satan" and put Mr. Turkey Neck, because he is, I mean, think about it. From day one of the Obama administration, he said, we're going to block everything that he puts up. Mitch McConnell is evil. He is duplicitous. He does not play fair. And he has benefited off the backs of the people of Kentucky for so long. And we've been to Kentucky enough time. There's so many people of color there. Like another place that's very blackety black. And oftentimes when people talk about the Midwest and the Rust Belt and all these other states, these red states, they don't factor in these black people because these black people haven't been going to vote. And so I love that. What is the gentleman's name who is?
It's Charles Booker.
Charles Booker. I love that he has galvanized local people and given them a level of hope in the way that Obama did. And that him being present at these protests and these marches and just that alone. I watched the piece earlier where they had a debate and the anchor asked the woman why she hadn't been to any of the debates. She says, "Oh, and after about 27 eyes, she was like, yeah, I had some stuff with my family and things like that." But her not being present and not showing that she supported this underserved community in Kentucky may be at her own undoing. And seeing photos of like it was a small group of youth protesters at Mitch McConnell's house, and it was all white people. And here's the thing. I know there's a segment of our people, Sybil, who feel like, black people can do this on our own. But if you really believe that, you've never been to a civil rights museum, because if you go to any of them, you realize for every 10, 20 photos of black people that you've seen that got locked up during a protest, a riot or something, they're photos of white people that were arrested for being our allies. During the whole Underground Railroad, there were white people that housed us and helped us plan our ways of escape. And so we can't be so mad at everybody that we don't embrace our allies. And we can't be so critical of those who are attempting to be allies and may say something incorrect or misstep along the way. And so I think together, those black people, those white people, and all the other races that really see what's going on and how Mitch McConnell has abused his platform as a senator of Kentucky are like, no, let's change this thing up. And we need it.
And it really does. You're right. It has to be a partnership. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I was trying to quote Sherry yesterday in a conversation with Myra J. and Terry Ellis, and talking about white people calling and asking, well, what can we do? How can we help you? And not so much, tweeting and Instagramming and doing that, but when you're in the room and we're not there, you've got to represent then too. You just can't be so complicit to all of the negativity that's going on. And it's very important that we do recognize the Schwarners and the Cheneys and those that were a part of the civil rights movement. And as you said, during the Underground Railroad period and the white abolitionists who were really down for the cause. And even just most recently, just in terms of the movie Harriet, when she was speaking and Frederick Douglass was there, and maybe a couple of other Black folks, but for the most part, it was white folks in there who were doing that and wanted to be of greater help and assistance. And,
so piggybacking on just what you said about Sherry, I say that all the time. Here's the truth. There are so many great Black talent, and I'll include myself in that because I need a TV job, a full-time TV job, that all we need is opportunity. Like, I've had so many network deals and for shows that almost didn't go, or at the last minute they decide to go with a white guy that was in a boy band just because maybe he'll bring a bigger following, and all these other ancillary reasons for people who talent-wise I outperform them. And so when our mainstream counterparts, when the white people say, what can we do to help, hire us? I celebrate Meryl Streep from that time at the Screen Actor Guild Award when she stood up on stage and said, somebody hire Viola Davis. Well, Viola was already getting work, but the work increased as a result of Meryl Streep saying, she is my equal. You celebrate me, but she's just as good as me. All she needs is more opportunities. And so that's what we need. We need opportunities. Take a chance on us. Like, and as it pertains to TV hosts, there are 5 Black guys who get all the work. It's Michael Strahan, it's Steve Harvey, it's Wayne Brady, it's Nick Cannon. And if they can't get, Terry Crews, and if they can't get any of those 5, they may call Terrence J. And every job goes to these guys. So as far as Black people are concerned, you either have to come out the NFL, haven't had to be a king of comedy, or did some crazy reality show for you to get your chance to be the Black version of Regis Philbin, or the Black version of Tom Bergeron, or the Black version of Ryan Seacrest, a corny white guy they took off a radio station and said, let's try you out on this major reality show. And look what all he was able to become. All we need is opportunity. Take a chance on us.
Yep. You're absolutely right, John. You are well said, and bravo. Absolutely. And I think that we're at a point where we have to continue that conversation, not just assume that it's going to happen. We have to continue to have the conversations with the people who are in the room, who have the opportunity to speak on our behalf, because there's more conversations than not. When we're not in the room, that they are. Absolutely. And to see that is just it's really it's disheartening. In every area, John, we're still talking about the only Black driver in NASCAR, a guy named Bubba, who went forward a couple weeks ago and said, please, I beg of you, take down these Confederate flags. Everywhere I look, as I travel the NASCAR circuit, there are Confederate flags. Well, just as quickly as he asked and said, we must, NASCAR said, okay, we'll take them down. Boom. 2 weeks later, a noose is found in his garage stall. Wink, wink. In Bubba's garage stall in Alabama. He's an Alabama native, but in Talladega, this noose was found. Now, get this afternoon, the FBI has come out and said, oh, that noose, that wasn't new. That's been in that place since at least October of last year. That just a piece of rope that was tied in that way, but it had nothing to do with the hatred and dislike of him. Really?
All we can do is side-eye this whole situation, Sybil.
Side-eye is right, because John, as this was happening on Sunday, all those NASCAR fans are circling the track, all the main thoroughfares. They are waving their Confederate flags. They're doing all of this stuff. Somebody hired a plane to fly over with a Confederate flag and said, defund NASCAR.
Yeah. Here's the truth, Sybil. 2 things need to happen here. One, and Roland Martin really sparked this in me when we had a conversation. He was telling me a story about how years ago there was this big MLK event that was supposed to take place in Atlanta, and the local politicians were giving it a hard time. Long story short, the then president of Coca-Cola said, if you all don't approve this event, I will move Coca-Cola from Georgia to another state and literally change your local economy. And all of a sudden, everybody got behind this MLK thing. It went forward because when big corporations speak, everybody responds. Sponsorship drives sports, you know, and so
look at the cars.
Look at the cars. Yeah, I mean, they're plastered and everything. So if you've got some money to now move towards NASCAR and you are a very inclusive, diverse organization, spend some money there so you can demand how you want even more change, how you can even diversify the driving and the drivers and all of the other things that
and all of your crew, your pit crews and the folks that are selling in the stands and all of that.
And you know what? Once outdoors opens up in a proper way, not these people that are running out there real soon getting sick. Shout out to D.O. Hughley. But the ones who are, you know, doing this thing the right way, when outdoors opens up, well, guess what? Now we've got a new thing that we can take our families to. So we need to go and diversify those stands. We need to go buy tickets. We need to make these, listen, if you're uncomfortable being around us, well, good. You're going to stay uncomfortable because we're going to show up in places that you're not used to seeing us. And when things aren't right and you're doing things that are out of line, we're going to hold you accountable. And this is our time of reckoning. We have stood with every other marginalized group, whether it was Me Too, whether it was the LGBT, whether it was the Women's March, whatever the organization was, whatever their plight was, we have stood with them all while still trying to overcome ourselves. And we're in a place where we're finally just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And thank you, pandemic, for making everybody be able to sit home and watch a Black man be killed by the police officers, to convince people that this is really happening and to shake them and to say, we're not lying. This ain't race baiting. You know, we're not the race that cried wolf. These things are really going on. We need your support, and we are demanding. It's either going to be change or we're going to burn this damn country down.
And it's come to that. It really has. You're absolutely right.
You built it. You can burn it.
We built it.
Yeah.
So you're right. Yeah. And that's the way folks are. But you know what? Everything that has come about right before the pandemic, with the pandemic, and now as we're still going through it, it's just been an amazing 6 months. And not always
it's like March 16th to me, Sybil. It's just one long day. It's like an episode on the Tyler Perry series. One long day, Sybil. It doesn't feel like months have passed. It's like my first day sheltered in.
Okay.
The have and the have-not, Sybil. It's one long day.
But shout out to Tyler today because I think I was talking to you when the Rayshard Brooks funeral was being streamed online, and Tyler took care of all of the funeral arrangements for that young man who was celebrated today by those who knew him and loved him.
And paid for his 4 kids to go to college.
4 kids to go to college.
Ain't that remarkable? That's how you bless somebody else. That's how when you have more, you pay it forward. And so, you know, we make jokes about his art, and he's a good sport. He gets it, you know. But the reason why he has been entrusted with a platform and blessed with so much more is because anytime he needs to rise to the occasion, he does. And that's a remarkable.
He does. He never turns his back. He always is in there. And he is such a man of amazing faith and always there to, he reminds me of you in a lot of ways because he's such an encourager.
Broke version. I'm the broke version.
Yes. But very, very encouraging, very, you know, very, a people person in his own way, like you are, but you know, can really kind of push you and make you think about some things and really encourage people to go out there and be their very best. And I include you in that group because
thank you.
Definitely, you guys.
And I'm glad we're celebrating him, Sybil, because you know, as you know privately, I was really upset with how Don Lemon handled that situation. Yeah. During the protest when he went on television and called out various celebrities. Because here's the thing, that's no different than what Trump does. You're pandering to an audience. You know that the layperson loves that whole call the celebrity out thing. But if you're going to do it as a responsible journalist, you should also be informed when you do it so that you're not calling out people who are doing the work. And so behind the scenes, we knew that Tyler was making his plane available to fly the family around for those funerals, that he was cutting checks. You know, Oprah Winfrey, he called her out that Saturday night, not even knowing that on that Saturday morning, she had abandoned her whole Weight Watchers tour platform and did a whole discussion on civil rights and social justice for a whole bunch of middle-aged white women that didn't know what they signed up for. They thought they were going to learn about portion control and living their best life. And she was like, no, Black Lives Matter, you know? And so many of the other people were there doing the work. And so you called them out. But the truth is, Dawn, respectfully, you were only out there at the protest because CNN paid you to be. Would you have been if you didn't have the lights and the camera and the microphone and you weren't being performative for an audience? So, like, we've got to be careful not to compromise the great work that people are doing just because we're pandering to our audiences as well.
And we've got to respect the people that don't require all of that, you know, glitz and glamour and putting the light on the works that they do. And it's so necessary.
$1 million checks to charities. I don't need a tweet to celebrate that. Speaking that into existence, by the way, when I start writing $1 million checks to the Yolanda Starks White Foundation, I don't need a lot of attention for it.
That's the foundation is called Jewels. So just so you know,
so get it right. So when they start sending them checks in.
John, what do you think about the advertising boycott being called upon Facebook and Instagram and Mark Zuckerberg? There is an organization and they have a program called #StopHateForProfit. And they are encouraging folks like the NAACP, Color of Change, and the Anti-Defamation League are calling upon the advertisers of Facebook and Instagram to boycott, at least put a hold on their advertising on these platforms until the end of July. And so people are starting to listen. And like REI is one of the great outdoor companies, Patagonia more recently, and Mozilla said, where you been? We have not approved of anything they've done since 2018. We have not advertised with them. What are your thoughts on that? Not necessarily canceling, but putting a hold on it.
No, but money talks. And listen, just as the Black community alone, we have, I think it's something like a $3 trillion spending power in America. And so when you have these other major corporations that pull their ad dollars, that's how you get change. The truth is that sometimes we will spend money at a company that does things that are racially insensitive, that are intentionally offensive to us, that we don't see them putting money back in our communities. You know, I did a whole Black Lives Matter social justice conversation with Luster Hair Care, S-Curl.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Was in my notes.
Several weeks ago, Sybil, and I had to just thank them. I'm like, you know, you guys are curating these conversations. You're taking care of the talent for having the conversations, but a lot of brands shy away from speaking to the consumers that make them rich. They get really quiet and they, no, we don't want to rock the boat because Luster also makes this product and we don't want our white consumer. Like, I love it when people don't pull a Jordan and say Republicans buy Jordans too. No, I'm going to speak to the core demographic and stand with them so that they can finally get the change that they need. I want them to be alive and healthy and their families to thrive so they continue to buy our products and continue to help us be the success stories that we are. I'm going to reinvest in the community with our dollars, you know? And so these corporations saying we're not going to spend money with Facebook, that's going to be very telling, because if all of a sudden you don't see a lot of these other standard ads and all you're seeing is these Russian endorsed GOP Trump propaganda ads, every time, you know, if there's the bar mitzvah photo, the jail release party, and your social distancing cookout, and then there's a Russia ad, and you keep getting Russia ads, you might want to get off of that app. You know, they're going to be trying to resurrect Black Planet or something after too many of those ads. So I think it's important that these corporations do that. We need to show them the power in this dollar. And Facebook is making some real egregious decisions, whereas on Twitter's getting it right. They're like, oh, Trump, you want to talk crazy? Cool. Disclaimer right above your tweet. Oh, you say something violent? Oh, you're against our protocol. I mean, it's long overdue, but part of the reason why we're in this place in our country is social media apps, media companies, everybody was benefiting. from the ringleader of this circus. They thought he was funny. They thought he was entertaining. They thought he was the one-man Ringling Brothers. But just the way Ringling Brothers recently went out of business, we need this man to go out of business of ruining our country and really having a negative impact on the global society. Like, we are the laughing stock of the world because of the ringleader that's occupying the White House.
Yeah. And I think it was very telling how social media played a part in his great disappointment of his rally on Saturday in Tulsa.
Best story ever, Sybil. Let me tell you, I didn't know now I'm pretty hip, Sybil.
Yes, you are.
I didn't know what a Zoomer was. I was like, what's who's zooming who? Old school, Aretha Franklin sing that, or Janet Cole with somebody. But you know what TikTok is, and I know what K-pop is. And I've been following this movement where K-pop and the TikTokers were taking over these racial trending hashtags. So like after Black Lives Matter, they would do All Lives Matter or White Lives Matter. And they were flooding that stuff with Black Lives Matter propaganda, promoting the music videos. So they're just sick of the hatred.
Yeah.
And there's something that I said to you when we talked several weeks ago about one of the marginalized communities that I really hope show up in these elections.
Yeah.
Is the Asian community, because Trump has done so much to offend them with his racist rhetoric and stuff. And they are a voting population that just does not show up. But these young Asians, these Korean Asians, these K-pop fans, and all the little white girls that love them, they have been able to galvanize an audience that embarrassed Trump in a major way. Watching him walk off that plane looking like they should have been playing the song "Nobody Knows the Troubles I See" as the score underneath of him, or like doom, 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 doom. It was the most depressing thing I'd ever seen in my life, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, it was a sight to behold, and to wake up a nation, if you will, like that. They did a hell of a job, and I want to commend you too, because we do have a lot of conversations and tweeting back and forth, or texting back and forth rather. But you have done some really great work on social, using a lot of these platforms, and really making headway and having great conversations. Last week, you had a conversation on Areva Martin's channel, and she is a big-time lawyer and activist, especially on the West Coast. But people around the country know her. And she had you in a conversation with a Fox analyst, right?
John Thomas is like a conservative radio host.
Oh, he's radio. Okay, because I thought.
But I said he was pulling from the Fox News playbook. So
right. All right. Okay, so
exclusive. Yeah.
So this was
one of the things. Nice guy though, Sybil.
But John, they were talking, ladies and gentlemen, about the whole Aunt Jemima thing, and it was just, he was trying to talk about what an important part Aunt Jemima pancakes and syrup played in his life.
How tasty it was. It's my childhood. So what made me mad, Sybil, and then, but in addition to him just being tone deaf on the whole topic, he started talking about how these Twitter lynch mobs can't make these corporations make bad moves. And I was sitting there fuming, and I had already told her, because Areva Martin in her request had said, I want to get a conservative on that you guys can have a sensible conversation. So I kind of recommended a few that I knew, well, you got Tara Zedmeyer, you got Shermichael Singleton. She went and found John Thomas. And so, and when he started with the whole lynch mob thing, I let him finish.
He said that lynch mob mentality, and I was like, oh boy, here we go.
And I was sitting there, I was praying, Lord, just let me calm down, Lord. Just let me, what is those Iyanla Vanzant breathing exercises, Lord?
Right. Come on, beloved.
but I had to check him because he was out of line. And I had to tell him, like, a race finally having a day of reckoning and we finally having a moment to overcome. That's not a mob in any regards. Like, we're human beings. And I know you lack a sensitivity to the images here, and these corporations have made a lot of money off of these slave and racist-based images, a lot of them still centered in the Confederacy. And you wouldn't understand how we feel about this stuff because your people owned us. We didn't own you. But if I owned you, you would feel a lot differently about this, I mean, here's the truth. if I rough my dog up while walking him, Sybil, white people will be out here asking me to do life in prison because they care more about these animals than they do. I mean, when you look at the Central Park Karen story, there was a segment of white people that were more outraged at the way she was handling her dog on the leash than they was that the black man could have been subjected to this horrendous experience just because she wanted to be a Karen that day, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate for me that that some of our white counterparts just lack the sensitivity to look themselves in the mirror and say, let me see if I can have a level of empathy or compassion for what their experience is so that I can understand. And their unwillingness to do it for me is very telling. And I'm in a place in my mind, Sybil, where, you know, listen, I'm of the age that I believed in the rose-colored lenses. I thought the Barack Obama presidency was going to usher in a time where that race would not be such a thing. I didn't know that America,
a post-racial society.
Yes, I bought into that because, you know, I'm like right at the top of the millennials and the Gen X, I think it is. I'm like right there.
Yeah.
And so I was supposed to believe that, you know. I would give a lot of my older friends and mentor a hard time when race was a factor in every one of their conversations. But I never thought America would be so mad that the man who ran the free world and wasn't their slave. And I think that all that we've experienced over the last 3.5 years has been because all these white races are like, he was supposed to be our slave, not the president of the United States. He should not be able to be on a wall next to George Washington because George Washington should have owned him. And it's really heartbreaking. It's a thin line here. Either you're actively fighting against racism or you're a racist. And if you're not fighting against it, you have to embrace the fact that you just are who you are in this country.
Yep. And John, you know, in talking about that, and he wanted like, well, my people wouldn't not my people owning slaves. You know, it's like, dude, he was
do one of them ancestry DNA tests. You come from slave owners, fool.
Okay, and he's probably you know related to Mitch McConnell because Mitch McConnell, you know, as we were talking about him earlier, Mitch McConnell from the very first day, I think it was on Inauguration Day, said he would make it his job, his main job, to make sure that Barack Obama was not reelected.
And so, if Mitch McConnell was a real man, like Donald Trump standing up in these podiums calling the coronavirus the Kung flu and the Wuhan virus and stuff, he's married to an Asian woman. So you would think if he had any sense of dignity, you know, let Trump had named the virus like this after some black congressman or senator's wife.
My God.
They be rolling up in the White House being withheld by Secret Service ready to kick his tail. But this man is just so he's so focusing on his own agenda that and she for all the purposes is a sellout. She's and let me tell you, some of my Republican friends say, don't be surprised that because Mitch McConnell wants to stay in office as well because his wife is into some really duplicitous things, like during speeches and stuff in Europe and stuff, getting paid for things that she shouldn't be getting paid for. There's a lot of them that could be getting a call from the federal prosecutors and things like that once they're finally out of office.
And it's going to be interesting to see how all of that, because John, she's not the only one. Obviously, Trump is not the only one. And there's so many more. I mean, even today they were talking about, you know, how nice the judicial process, how easy it was, even for people like Roger Stone, because he was a Trump ally. And there's going to be so much more. And not to mention his own family and what's going to come out with the things that they have done. So we've been talking about people in the room and those who are now saying, I wish that I had done more back in the day or whatever. And you were quoted on page 6 today about our friend Sherry Shepherd. And I'm wondering if you can tell this story because Marta Kaufman is one of the creators of Friends, and Sherry Shepherd was one of the very few Black people that had a speaking part on Friends over its 10 years, right? And so can you tell the story about how this all came about?
So I was doing ABC News Live with Lindsay Davis. ABC has this streaming news platform that's doing really, really well. And so
I really liked that interview with you guys. I thought, but I love Lindsay Davis.
She's
I'm
amazing.
A big fan of
She
hers.
asked me to come back on. But I did the interview. I posted it on my social media platform. And I don't know if it's been a slow news week and there's not a whole lot going on in entertainment. But for whatever reason, they picked up on that story like a week and a half later. And so Sherry had shared with us in the group chat that she had gone on Friends, her, Gabrielle Union, Aisha Tyler, and Tech Holmes from The Real World are the only people of color I ever remember being on Friends. And here's the thing, I never watched Friends. Like even when I was a teenager when Friends was on, like I watched shows that had people that look like me. So I've never seen Friends or Seinfeld, Will and Grace, none of them. If you ain't got a main Black character, you ain't got a rating from me. And so so Sherry shared the story in our group chat. And so when I got the call from ABC News, I said, hey, I'm going on to talk about a series of stories pertaining to Hollywood's atonement. Could I tell that story? Like, it's a really great story. She was like, yes. I sent that postcard out and it said, Friends gets a little color. And she said, I actually sent one of the postcards to Marta Kaufman. And she said, not only was I never asked back, I was never asked to audition for any of the parts. Like they just, I was completely shut off. And all of that was to say that she wasn't as oblivious to the fact that she wasn't embracing diversity. It was an intentional choice at the time. And I also believe it was an intentional choice because we all know that Friends was knocked off from Living Single. There was an NBC executive that loved Living Single and he wanted his own version. And so they created the white version and she was one of the co-creators. And they just, didn't care about us. And instead of that show looking like multicultural New York City, it looked like monolithic Maine. Like it was really white.
Really lily white, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just very telling because recently she was it South by Southwest or it was like
the AXT or something. One of them odd TV conferences, she had her whole moment of atonement and I realized I could have done more. And so my whole thing is if she would like to do more, Black TV shows have not been the beneficiary of the whole Hollywood reboot. We haven't seen a lot of our show. So how about you go and you bring in the whole executive producing team formerly associated with Living Single and you lead the charge to put that show back on TV. Because we want one and we know the cast wants one. So that'll be you paying it forward.
How beautiful would that be? And
that'll be a kumbaya story I can get behind.
For real. So we got to talk about what's going on at ABC, though, with the director.
Find something to hide behind. Hold on a second.
No, I'm not asking for you to reveal anything, but I think that this is going to be a moment in which, like with some of the others that we've had, hopefully people will make and not an about face, but will start to evolve in the way that, and think about the way that they're seeing things that have happened and kind of put these pieces together. There is a woman who was a high-ranking executive at ABC. She's been put on leave for right now, but a number of charges against her regarding the way that she has treated the Black folks and the things that she has said about Black employees at that company, including, talking about our own Sunny Hostin and the things that she said about Robin Roberts and about Michael Strahan and on and on and on. You could just name all of the people and kind of see how the connections have almost webbed out regarding other people and how their careers have, in some cases, have come to a standstill because of the way she treated people. I don't think this is going to be the last time that we're going to hear about somebody, an executive, either at ABC or any of the other major networks, and it might not even be Fox. I don't know, but I just think that we are at a time, and you can speak to this as a pop culture and TV entertainment expert. Speak to this in terms of the comeuppance and the revelations of people who have been doing wrong for generations at these companies.
Yeah, having people at the highest level of the decision making really has a great impact. There's a story I like to tell. I won't say the name of the executive of the network. I tell it when I'm around, when we're in private settings. She lets me tell it to other people, but I don't want to expose her in a public conversation like this. But there is an executive at a network who was in a meeting with Les Moonves. I'll say it was CBS. And basically they were having this whole conversation about diversity. And the executive basically spoke up and said, listen, Mr. Moonves, our network doesn't even have anyone here that looks like your son, who's Asian. And they say he got the fidgeting in his chair, and he was so uncomfortable because it was a hard truth that she was bold enough to say to him. Well, as a result of that, they started diversifying the programming there, and they started to acquire shows that had more, because basically they had a couple shows with like NCSI and things like that, with like LL Cool J and Shamar Moore that were on there. But for the most part, most of their shows lacked diversity because their demographic really was an older white audience. And so, but it was a hard truth that he needed to face. And they started to promote some Black executives. And then ultimately that whole network was shaken up because of the Me Too scandal. I know that when you have people at the highest levels here, you have people who have a level of accountability and can make sure that you don't just hire people of color, but you respect them, that you treat them honorably, and that you're not saying things like this executive allegedly said about Robin Roberts. Like, it's not like we're asking her to pick cotton or something. And what I'm hoping that Disney does in this situation is, so Disney wasn't impacted by the Me Too movement like CBS and NBC was. And so remember, they were also the network that gave voice to Ronan Farrow after NBC wouldn't air his story because of their conflict of interest and things like that. So you can't shine the light on what your competitors are doing, what Les Moonves is doing, and what NBC is doing, without dealing with your own issue. And so your issue wasn't sexual assault and rape and all the other stuff, but clearly you've got a racial insensitivity. Now, I do know that there's some people of color that have not had a bad experience with that particular executive. And I also know that there was some white talent there who hated her just as much as the Black talent did. I've been told that there was a nickname for her very similar to like the Devil Wears Prada. They had like a little nickname for her within the building because across the board, a lot of people just didn't like this woman. So she's probably going to lose her job. That's obvious. But the truth is that she was able to do the things that she was doing because there was people around her who enabled her.
And above her.
The one above her. And then there was a lawyer who actually was a Black woman who was apparently doing these payouts and negotiating these settlements with talent after this woman was creating these really bad dynamic with some of the Black talent in particular there. So it's time for them to overhaul it. It's time to shake up the paradigm. I'm no TV executive, and I'm just a fun Black guy out here trying to get a TV job. But as somebody who is a junkie and who loves this genre, I believe that whoever made the decision to cancel The Chew just to expand GMA an extra hour with that god-awful show that's had 3 names and now it has 3 hosts and they just can't figure it out. And
now it's off on the shelf somewhere.
Before it went on hiatus because of the pandemic, it was rating so bad that Harris Faulkner's midday Fox News show on cable was outperforming it, which is like something never seen before in broadcast television. So the person who made that decision, I would have thought would have lost their job. But I'm not a TV executive. I'm just trying to pick up some of Michael Strahan's side gigs. What I do know is ABC's got to overhaul that thing and make some better choices. And if they need to see my talent reel while making those better choices, just holla at me. I can get it to you.
John, I can't wait. I think you, and you're not a well-kept secret, but in one sense you are. But I think that you are an untapped energy and talent source. And I really hope that your time is now. And you are just on the verge of greatness, because
if we was in church right now, Sybil, I'd fall out and cover myself up. I just like you're like an evangelist at the Potter's house, Sybil. I'm just full of the Spirit, Sybil. I receive it. Oh, I just got happy again. I had an aftershock. All
I
right.
so appreciate you and the way that you have encouraged us and you have such an astute eye and sense of all of the way this goes. I really appreciate you, and I just want you to
I
know
love
that.
you. And if I look crazy to the people, listen, I'm used to doing TV on the computer, and I know I'm supposed to be looking here, but I just like to look at Sybil. So I'm sure I was looking like this the whole night.
I
She
do
just
that to
looks so
you.
pretty. She got a yellow on and stuff. And
But let me tell you, John did when he did. I think it was the luster thing you did, and Kim and Sherry and I were on, and we were talking about you, and we were like, "Damn, John looks good." It was just like your hair, your coloring, everything was like, and you're like, "Yeah, well, I got this light. Now I'll show you where." I was like, You can say it was the filter. You can say all of that.
me feeling like I'm Boris Kojo with an afro.
You're so funny. Will you come back again after you make it big? You remember
anytime you ask, I'll come play with you. We always have a good time. We always have smart conversation. And I just said this to Sherry last night, but people don't, I mean, listen, we all know Sybil's smart, and we know you read lots of books and you got your book club and all that stuff, but you don't get the credit for having the wicked sense of humor that you have. Like the reason why you work so well with all these comics and all this stuff is because you're absolutely hilarious. And if you worked at a major corporation, your jokes would probably cost you your job, Sybil.
Exactly.
Really edgy and irreverent. And that's why we love you. So, you know, at some point, Sybil, as a bucket list situation, you will have to stand on stage and do like a 7-minute set or something.
I could not.
Oh my God, you could do it in your sleep, Sybil.
John, you guys are my best audience. You really are.
I love you, my friend. Anytime you
love you too. I love you too.
Away.
Where can people see you next? And the one thing we didn't talk about, John, is the rap table.
Oh yeah. Okay. Real quick, I'm doing a film review series called The Review Rap Table with two amazing young ladies. Jasmine Simpkins, she's one of the faces of hip Hollywood. I call her my work wife because we're really, really tight. And Carla Renata, who's an actress and a film critic. You can find her on all my social media platforms, which is my name, Jawn. Jawn, my mama's black. That's how she spelled it. JAWNMURRAY. That's Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And then you can find me on Facebook at Jawn Murray World. So we post everything there, and you can keep up with all the other stuff I'm doing. I am here, there, everywhere, and having a good time from home with a mask on until the world changes again.
Okay. And November 3rd, that's when it happens.
That's it. That's the change we need.
I know.
Get ready.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here today. And big thanks to Mike Odom and other people who are chatting live on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. We see you and we hear you, and really appreciate all of the comments and suggestions that you make. And my friend Jawn Murray, pop culture expert extraordinaire, just a culture critic, if you will, and one of the best at it. So I thank you, sir. And please continue to join us every day. Tomorrow, Stephen Hill is live with us as we talk about what's in the news with the What You Need to Know newsletter. And you can get that by going to SybilWilkes.com. Please subscribe there. And I will see you all tomorrow. And you go out there, be good to each other, and wash your hands. And please be safe. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks, John. I love you.
Love you more.